All right, everybody. I've got some news that is going to make you guys giggle and smile with joy, because regardless of how Donald Trump may be slithering his way out of his current court cases potentially, this is something that he can't really slither out of. This is just him taking a colossal L. Donald Trump crashes out of the Bloomberg rich list due to his meme stock nosediving. This is from Business Insider, by the way. Donald Trump has crashed out of the ranks of the world's 500 wealthiest people after the value of his meme stock nosedived. The former president has fallen off of the Bloomberg Billionaires Index as his net worth has dropped below the $5.8 billion required to make the cut. Forbes' rich list pegs Trump's total wealth at $4.8 billion right now, ranking him 659th in the world. Trump held a top 300 spot on Bloomberg's index only a few days ago, ahead of the likes of George Soros, Mark Cuban, Giorgio Armani, Reed Hastings, and Bernie Marcus. The wealth of the presumptive Republican presidential nominee surged this year due to his 78.75 million shares, or at least 58% stake in Trump Media and Technology Group, or TMTG, merged with Digital World Acquisition Corp. and began trading under the ticker DJT in late March. TMTG shares hit an intraday high of $79 on March 26th, valuing Trump's stake at close to $6.3 billion. But the stock has now plunged by 53% since then to about $37 per share at Monday's close, slashing the worth of Trump's position to about $2.9 billion, a $3.3 billion decline in 2 weeks. The initial buying frenzy also boosted the company's market capitalization to about $11 billion at its peak, making it more valuable than Paramount, Etsy, Hasbro, American Airlines, or Ralph Lauren. TMTG is now worth about $5.1 billion. That's still more than 1,200 times the $4.1 million of revenue it earned last year, which fueled a net loss of $58 million for Truth Social's parent company. Trump may be especially displeased with the plunging net worth he's been slapped with, as he's been slapped with a $454 million judgment in a New York fraud case, and had to pay a $175 million bond demand while he appealed the decision. Donald Trump is slowly having all of his funds just kind of like ticked away. Literally a couple years ago, he was sitting pretty in the $6 billion range, and now he's sitting kind of comparatively scary in the $3 billion range, you know? That is a scary amount of wealth to lose in 2 weeks. With a lot more money he needs to spend, and the Republican Party already in a state of absolute panic, having no fucking clue how they are going to raise enough money to pay for Donald Trump's campaign. Another one? Donald Trump's bond posting is in even more trouble. Oh man, it gets better. Trump is on trial. All along we've said it, that while there was no way to predict whether Donald Trump would come up with a bond in his fraud trial, the one thing we did know was that there was no way he would get away with posting an illegitimate bond. After all, Letitia James, the judge in the trial, and the judges in the trial aren't rubes. If Trump tried to pull a fast one, they'd sniff it out, and they'd act accordingly. Sure enough, Letitia James, I don't know how it's pronounced. Is it Letitia or Letitia? Letitia or Letitia? I don't know how exactly it's pronounced. I always read it. Is already challenging the bond that Trump posted, asserting that the company isn't licensed to post bond in New York. Others have asserted that the company doesn't have enough cash to cover the bond. Now there's new trouble. This is a weirdly written article. I get it's like written in an almost like casual way, but I usually read articles written in this like regimented professional way, and I expect articles and things I read to be written that way, so I trip up when I expect them to say a thing a certain way and then they don't. like, wait, what? Did I read that wrong? Did I read the last word wrong? And I stop and I reread the last word, and I'm like, no, I read it right. Weird. The Daily Beast is reporting that the bond company is backed financially by another company in the Cayman Islands. This sets off all kinds of red flags for obvious reasons, and it gives James even more legal ammunition for challenging the bond. All of these shady stories about the bond company are largely being spun as, oh no, Trump is getting away with it all, by the media. But in reality, if you're rooting for Trump to not get away with it all, then the alleged shadiness of the bond is great news, because that means it can be rejected. If the bond were squeaky clean, Trump would be home free. But this is starting to look like the opposite, and if so, Trump will be right back on the hook for property seizures. Trump is on... Oh yeah, and then once again we get like they're asking for donations. Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, do you guys think that because the source of his bond pay is so shady, they'll just outright reject it? I'm curious. Let's see, is there any more further coverage about this? Holy shit, this is from 12 days ago. Oh my god. These stories are just racking up. Trump is going broke, like legitimately. Trump's net worth drops more than $1 billion in a day. This is 12 days ago. This is before this recent stock drop that happened.
Happening now, seconds ago, the stock market's open, and what you're looking at right there.
Oh, this is the start of it. This is when he'd only lost $1 billion of that, like, 3.6 billion he would lose.
Live look at Donald Trump's social media company, Trump Media, down nearly 3% so far in trading today. The market's open literally 40 seconds ago. This after he lost almost 20% yesterday, $1 billion on paper yesterday, plus a little so far today. Matt Egan is here with me to watch this and explain what happened yesterday. Why did it drop so much?
Well, John, today looks more like a dip than a dive, but anything can happen with this stock. It is subject to...
Anything did happen. 12 days later, Trump has lost billions with an S.
Wild moves, right? Don't blink, because you could miss a 10% move in either direction. Yesterday, as you mentioned, this stock lost almost a quarter of its value in one day. That means Donald Trump's net worth went down by about $1 billion because he's the dominant shareholder in Trump Media, the owner of Truth Social. You can see the stock just went flat on that.
Yeah.
The reason why it fell so sharply yesterday, though, they posted 2023 results. They were not pretty. The company lost $58 million last year on very little revenue. $4.1 million in revenue. That is so tiny because this is a company that started the week valued at $11 billion.
Same is happening to Twitter, and the same is going to happen to Twitter. We're going to see Elon lose tremendous amounts of money.
The results were actually very much in line with another digital media company that flamed out earlier this year, The Messenger. I'm not saying that Truth Social is going to go the way of The Messenger, but it does show why. Some experts are warning this is a meme stock, and it's ridiculously overvalued.
It's a meme stock.
And quickly, you were explaining to me so I could understand it.
I love that, like, actual market professionals on television have to use the term meme stock now to refer to a very particular practice in stock buying where you just follow a trend and try to get in as early on a massive wave as possible and sell as early on the wave or as late on the wave as you possibly can without losing any profit. I love that they have to use the term meme stonks now. Oh, it's so good.
I can understand it. Anyone can. There was an accounting warning having to do with Truth Social.
There was. So in the SEC filings yesterday, there was a warning from accountants that I do think spooked some investors, fueled some of the losses. The accountants said that the losses for Trump Media were so severe that they, quote, raise substantial doubt about its ability to continue as a going concern. Let me translate. That is Wall Street speak for we may go out of business. But John, there's an asterisk there. As you see, the stock just turned slightly positive. The asterisk is that warning likely predated the merger, and the merger didn't just
He looks over as it goes back down negative 31% immediately.
Truth Social public. It also led to a cash infusion of
so many people were holding their stock waiting for it to go back into the green so they could sell, and then immediately sold and dropped it back down into the red when they did.
$100 million, and that should be enough to let this company
they're gonna sell again.
In the meantime, John, listen, there's going to be wild swings up and down. Fasten your seatbelts.
And one of the most shorted stocks, I understand, on Wall Street right now. Matt Egan, great to see you.
Thanks, John.
Shares of Trump.
Oh, it's one of the most shorted stocks, too. Oh, no. That means there's tons of people betting for its value to drop. There's a ton of people making money off of its failure right now. They borrowed the stock, and they're hoping for its value to drop so they can rebuy it and return the stock at a later date. Because basically, when you short a stock, you borrow a stock, then you sell it, and then you hope that by the time you have to return that stock, for lack of a better phrasing, that its value has dropped, so you can pay less and return less because you agreed to give a certain amount of shares back, not a certain amount of value in shares back. And so there's tons of people that are potentially going to get rich off of shorting this Trump Media Group company. Yeah, you basically promised to buy it later, but the best way to describe it is like you're borrowing it. You know, you're borrowing it, and you're hoping to get that investment back later. But regardless, you're locking yourself into a contract where you have to buy it by a certain date. So if the stock is worth more, even by not that crazy amount of a percentage, it can be catastrophic for your finances, which is why shorting stocks is like one of the highest risk, highest rewards ways you can engage in the stock market. It's not recommended for the faint of heart or the shallow of pocket or the shallow of wallet. And on top of that, like, it just seems like it's hilarious that people are going to benefit from Trump's company's downfall here. Think of it like interest, but backwards. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Fuck, I should have thought of that if it was doomed from the start. Yeah, shorting stocks that are doomed is a fairly safe bet in the realm of, like, shorting a stock. But remember, you are promising to buy a certain amount of shares. So, you know, like, you gotta be careful, you know? You could end up making a shitload of money. You could also end up legitimately fucking yourself. Be careful. Be very, very, very careful.
Media and Technology Group, the parent company of Truth Social, plunged yesterday after a new SEC filing revealed the company lost more than $58 million in 2023. That compared to a $50.5 million profit in.
If Trump loses the election, can you imagine how bad the stock is going to take a hit when the steam starts to run out as people realize Trump's going to get too old to run again?
2022, Donald Trump, who owns a majority of the newly public company, saw his own net worth tumble by more than $1 billion on paper. I don't think, how many tours would you have to sell? A lot of them.
That's a good one.
The Jewish market alone. Let's just put it that way.
Sarah Fisher, can you help us understand, I mean, what the valuation is here? And, like, look, the stock market.
I don't know what that line was.
I'm not a business reporter. You know a lot more about this than I do. I think for average voters, it's clear that sometimes the market will reward companies that are losing money because there's a promise of return in the future. They're making a bet that this is going to be successful. Is that what's going on with Truth Social, or is something else going on with Truth Social? Because I guess I struggle to see how, like, this changes.
You're exactly right. This is what we would call a meme stock, which is where its financials are completely divorced from its market valuation. The way you know it's a meme stock, when you look at other...
A meme stock is a stock that is being mass market manipulated by, what's the term for it? Domestic... Or no, it's not domestic. It's, there's a term for it. Consumer buyers? I forget. There's a term for, like, your average person who uses, like, brokerage apps to buy stocks and trade and stuff like that, trade shares. But those people, did I get rated by Riverboat Jack? Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. If I got rated, thank you. Based. Hell yeah. Thank you, Riverboat Jack. No raid? Okay, well, regardless, Riverboat Jack is cool, so, you know. Thank you to Riverboat Jack for being cool. Anyway, yeah, I find it interesting that, yeah, consumer trader, thank you, yes. So, essentially, what you want to do is imagine a meme stock as something that is being mass market manipulated by consumer traders to go in a certain direction. Whether it be bag holding and mass buying to inflate a stock, this is usually organized by a very small group of people at the top in some Discord server somewhere who buy a bunch of shares in a stock, gather up a bunch of people and say, we're going to inflate this stock. This is going to be the next meme stock. We're all going to make millions. And then everyone buys it. And then they sell when it hits its peak and starts to slow down. And then they make a bunch of money. And all the sorry motherfuckers who followed them probably get scammed. That tends to be the cycle of how Wall Street Bets goes. There's a very small group of people at the top. It's like a pyramid scheme who all bought into the stock before the pump and dump even started, and then they do the pump and dump scheme, you know? It's literally just market manipulation. In many cases, they even have someone like Elon engage in it. Like Elon Musk engaging in market manipulation with Dogecoin. I guarantee you he bought a shitload of Dogecoin and then told people to buy it. And said, Dogecoin to the moon, Dogecoin to the moon, Dogecoin to the moon. Literally illegal if he did this with anything other than crypto.
Social media companies that have gone public. And we have a great proxy in Reddit, which went public just 2 weeks ago. You have a lot of a user base, and that's what the promise is. So even if they're not making money, you think that eventually they will because so many people use the product. And look, it's not unusual for social media companies to go public and not make money. Snapchat has still never posted a full profitable year in terms of EBITDA. Twitter, in its 9 years as being public, had only 2 profitable years. So this is not unusual. But what's unusual is that they're not revealing user metrics, right? Normally, tech companies are screaming to the mountaintops to investors, look how many people love our product.
This is why, Google can afford for YouTube to be non-profitable. The fact that it's fucking YouTube is what's valuable. It doesn't need to be making money for it to be worth more money than they're making from it existing, basically. It's worth so much money that it is an asset that is worth dumping money into like a black hole. Because the black hole itself is worth so much fucking money.
Nothing was revealed there. And they're also not revealing much about their business strategy. And so I think right now you have a lot of momentum from what we call retail investors, right? Fans who want to buy into the stock. But are institutional investors, big banks, going to continue to back the stock? Absolutely not. And that's why when they did finally reveal these losses for 2023, a lot of wind was pulled out of the sails.
Can I ask you why they made money in 2022?
They sold
lost
ads.
Money okay.
They sold ads. And
so then what's the difference? Because I think we can show us they made $50.5 million in 22 and they lost $58.2 million in 2023.
Because they borrowed money and the interest on that debt added up.
Got it.
And so some of that loss is attributed to debt, which, by the way, is not a great position to be in your first few weeks, right, on the stock market. The other thing I want to note here.
That sort of thing is supposed to be accounted for with company budgets too. So this probably suggests either the problem is worse than it looks or some level of mismanagement at the Trump media company.
Donald Trump can't sell his stock right now. He's in what we call a lockup, which means that for the next 6 months, he's got to sit on those shares. There's a very real possibility that this stock tanks in that time and that when he does go to sell the shares, they're not worth anything. And so when all these people are saying, oh, well, Donald Trump's net worth is now billions of dollars, well, let's see what happens in 6 months from now and what this company looks like.
Yeah, so I actually think the losses, to your point, are kind of meaningless because all these places lose money. The question, the damning number is the revenue. They're literally, they're literally supermarkets. And I don't mean chains. I mean the average individual supermarket has greater revenue than Truth Social does. You wouldn't value that
Holy shit.
billions of dollars, your corner of supermarket.
I should be in the supermarket industry if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, look, this again, yes, all these incredibly salient and smart points about the financials and how tech companies lose money, social media companies lose money, absolutely. But there is something kind of poetic and poignant about the fact that, once again, the emperor has no clothes. This is such a Donald Trump thing where, for a couple weeks now, it's been billions of dollars. And then, when you...
Well, I feel like Donald Trump strikes this balance as a fake character who is simultaneously a billionaire who has absolutely dominated the idea of the American dream while simultaneously being an everyman that's just like you know? A lot of very dumb people fall for that kind of thing. The idea that Donald Trump's just a normal guy, just a normal dude you'd meet out at the store at a barbecue who just happened to make the right choices and be smart enough and savvy enough of a businessman to do what any American can do if they just make the right choices and become a billionaire. Not like Donald Trump is a Nepo baby or anything like that, whose dad was one of the richest men in the country. I mean, yeah, they think that because he eats McDonald's like a regular American dude, he's just like them. You know, that like that's that surface level. And it really works. It really works. I'm curious to think or to see what you guys think of this whole situation and whether or not Donald Trump is going to end up going a lot more broke than we ever expected him to. Because this news has genuinely surprised me. Bro is losing a lot of money right now in a lot of different ways and has to lose a lot more money in the future to pay for his campaign. So I'm really curious to see how this is going to go. I'm curious to see what you guys think of how this is going to go. And yeah, if you enjoyed, please comment down below, leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon to see more from me so YouTube actually tells you when I make new content, go live, all that good stuff. Maybe consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub to my website if you can afford it. You can support me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, StreamElements, and buying merch as well if you want to. And of course, don't forget to join my fan Discord if you haven't already. We're actually about to do a watch party immediately after stream in a few moments of this awesome new horror mystery show called From. It's going to be a blast. We're going to be hanging out in there. It's going to be super fun. Hopefully, I will see you guys in the Discord server for our future watch parties. And with all that said, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good one.